Have you ever felt like you're working harder every year, but still not getting ahead? Maybe your pay goes up, but so do your bills. You work long hours, but true freedom, real choices about how you spend your time, always seems out of reach. I know what that feels like. For years, I chased bigger paychecks, thinking they would bring freedom. Instead, I found myself stuck in the same routine with no real way out. It's not just about money, it's about the rules we're taught to follow, most of which keep us running in place. The Money Game, How to Escape the Rat Race, is a guide to changing that story. It's not a promise of fast money or a secret trick. Instead, it lays out clear, simple steps you can take to build a life where work is something you choose, not something you're forced to do. As you read, you'll see why so many people end up stuck trading hours for money and how you can break out of that cycle. I'll show you how to create breathing room between what you earn and what you spend, so you finally have the space to move forward. You'll discover a straightforward approach for building savings, owning things that quietly earn money in the background, and adding new streams of income as you go. And throughout the journey, I'll share practical ways to protect yourself from those curveballs, like debt or sudden expenses that can knock your progress off track. You'll also find easy-to-use tools and checklists to help you track your progress. You don't need to be a financial expert or start with a lot of money. All you need is a willingness to try something different and take small steps, one at a time. If you want real control over your money and your time, this book is for you. Freedom is possible, no matter where you're starting from. Let's get started. Chapter 1, The Game. You've been lied to about money, not by a villain in a suit, but by a system so elegant you mistake the trap for a ladder. Every January, you set goals. Every December, you wonder where the year went. The salary climbed, the title changed, the apartment upgraded, but the knot in your chest when you check your account balance? Still there, tighter even. You're working harder, earning more, and somehow falling further behind. Welcome to the rat race, a beautifully designed treadmill where motion feels like progress until you realize you haven't moved an inch toward freedom. This chapter names the real opponent and hands you the map to escape. You'll see the invisible forces draining every raise before it compounds, understand why just work harder is a losing strategy, and learn the exact sequence that turns surplus into autonomy. By the end, you'll measure progress like an owner, not a worker, and you'll know the first move to make tomorrow. The treadmill you mistake for a ladder. Here's the trap. You sell hours for euros. More hours, more euros. Sounds fair, except hours are finite, and the moment you stop selling, the euros stop coming. You're not building equity, you're renting your life back one paycheck at a time. Worse, every raise triggers an invisible tax. You earn 10% more, so you lease a nicer car. Your friends move to a better neighborhood, so you follow. Subscriptions multiply. Streaming, software, gym memberships you forgot you have. Lifestyle creep is a silent thief. It doesn't announce itself. It just absorbs every increase before you notice. Salary up, freedom flat. Then there's debt. Credit cards promise flexibility, but deliver compound interest working against you while you sleep. A €5,000 balance at 18% APR costs you €900 a year just to stand still. That's not leverage. That's a slow bleed. Debt converts tomorrow's income into today's anxiety, and the math is ruthless. The longer you wait, the more it costs. Meanwhile, the system nudges you towards spending, not stacking. Social media is a 24/7 status auction. Everyone's highlight reel makes your Tuesday feel inadequate, so you buy the thing that signals you're winning. Micro leaks pile up, €12 here, €15 there, and because there's no scoreboard, no feedback loop, you never see the cumulative damage. You're flying blind, burning fuel, wondering why you never land. And compounding? It's working, just not for you. Interest on debt compounds reliably. Inflation erodes idle cash. Random emergencies, car repair, medical bill, broken laptop reset you to zero every few months. You're not losing because you're lazy. You're losing because the game is rigged to keep you running. The cost of staying put. If you don't change the pattern, the golden handcuffs tighten. One more promotion becomes your mantra. You postpone ownership, telling yourself the next title will fix it. But promotions bring raises, raises bring lifestyle inflation, and the cycle repeats. Burnout replaces curiosity. The work that once excited you now feels like a sentence. Optionality, the ability to say no, to pivot, to rest, shrinks every year. Retirement math breaks too. Compound interest rewards the early, it punishes the late. Start saving at 25, and modest contributions grow into real wealth. Start at 40, and you're playing catch-up on hard mode, saving more for longer with less margin for error. Market shocks that would be bumps in your 20s feel fatal in your 40s when you have no buffer and fixed costs you can't cut. Lifestyle fixed costs trap you in place. The bigger apartment, the car payment, the private school, they're not flexible. You can't downsize without social cost, so you stay in the job you hate because the math says you have to. Freedom becomes a fantasy you'll chase someday, which is another word for never. What winning looks like. Escape isn't vague, it's precise. Own enough cash flow generating assets that work becomes optional. Not retirement at 65, not a lottery win. A design system where your assets pay your expenses and your time is yours to allocate. The first time through this book, you'll achieve 3 things. You'll define a surplus target, a freedom spread of at least 20% between what you earn and what you spend, and protect it with constraints that survive real life. You'll build a simple defense system, a staged emergency buffer, 1 month, then 3, then 6, a debt kill order ranked by interest rate, and minimal insurance against catastrophic risks. And you'll choose and fund your first cash flow asset, something you understand, that pays you, and that you can start with small, automated contributions over 90 days. That's the foundation. Over time, if you keep running the sequence, the results compound. Cash flow from assets begins covering core expenses. Work shifts from necessity to choice. You pick projects for meaning, not money. Reinvested cash flows accelerate the flywheel. Assets buy more assets, distribution and systems amplify reach, and freedom stops being measured in months and starts being measured in years. The 6-step escape sequence. The path is simple, but the order matters. First, defense. You can't compound if emergencies keep resetting you to zero. Build buffers, kill high-interest debt, and patch catastrophic risks. Stability first, speed second. Second, create the freedom spread. Engineer a gap between earnings and expenses that survives lifestyle pressure. This surplus is the oxygen of compounding. No surplus, no assets. No assets, no escape. Third, own cash flow assets. Cross the line from selling hours to owning equity. Start small, index funds, tiny digital products, royalties, but start. The goal isn't perfection, it's a paying asset within 90 days. Fourth, stack leverage. Multiply output without multiplying hours using code, media, capital, and people. Document, automate, delegate, distribute. Each cycle should reduce your operational drag and expand your reach. Fifth, allocate capital. Turn surplus into freedom faster by upgrading how you deploy money. Favor asymmetric bets you understand, automate contributions, and let winners run while capping downside. Sixth, reinvest relentlessly. Stack income streams that share infrastructure and audience. Replace dependence on one paycheck with durable optionality across multiple cash flows. Then repeat. The game gets easier as assets and systems shoulder more of the load. You'll run this on a weekly cadence, a 15-minute scoreboard review tracking 2 numbers, free cash flow and net worth, 1 risk removed, 1 asset move, 1 leverage upgrade. Monthly retrospectives catch drift, quarterly pivots adjust strategy. Confidence isn't granted, it's earned through reps. Why this order? Why these steps? Defense prevents ruin. Fragility kills compounding faster than bad bets. You need a buffer before you need a portfolio. Surplus is fuel, no flight. Sequencing lowers error rates because each step builds the platform for the next. Ownership before optimization. Equity breaks income ceilings. Leverage multiplies owners, not employees. If you don't own the system owns you. Allocation compounds only when capital exists, so you must create surplus and acquire assets before sophisticated strategies matter. Skip steps and you'll loop back. Try to leverage before you own and you'll scale chaos. Allocate before you defend, and one shock erases years of progress. The sequence isn't arbitrary, it's survival math dressed as strategy. Winners versus losers, a matter of identity. Winners measure, decide, act. Losers hope, delay, excuse. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's identity. Owners buy cash flows, consumers buy applause. When a winner gets a raise, the first move is to increase the automatic transfer to the asset account. When a loser gets a raise, the first move is to upgrade the car. Builders document, dabblers improvise. Winners write one-page SOPs for repeatable tasks. Losers wing it every time, wondering why nothing scales. Allocators accept boredom. Thrill seekers chase noise. Compounding is quiet. It's automated contributions, weekly reviews, and letting time do the heavy lifting. The highlight reel is a lie. Real wealth is built in spreadsheets, not stories. The shift from worker to owner isn't a promotion someone grants you. It's a decision you make, then defend with systems that make the right move automatic. You now know the enemy, the cost of inaction, and the map to freedom. The treadmill is optional. The cage has no lock. But knowledge without action is just expensive entertainment. In the next chapter, we'll crack open the rulebook, the non-negotiables that separate players who win from players who just participate. You'll learn what actually counts as progress and why most people track the wrong scoreboard entirely. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Game Rules. Most people lose at money because they never realize they're playing a game. They treat it like a mystery, something that happens to them, not something they control. They work harder when they should work smarter. They chase raises when they should chase equity. They measure busyness when they should measure progress. And because they don't know the rules, they make unforced errors that cost them years. Here's the truth. Money is a game with clear rules, defined players, and a scoreboard. Once you see the structure, everything changes. You stop reacting and start designing. You stop hoping and start measuring. You stop playing someone else's game and start playing yours. This chapter hands you the rulebook. You'll learn what actually counts as winning, how to track it, and which role you need to step into next. By the end, you'll have a simple, boring, effective system that makes progress visible and inevitable. Why you can't win what you don't understand. Imagine playing chess without knowing how the pieces move. You'd lose every time, and you'd blame luck. That's most people with money. They're moving pieces randomly, hoping for a win, never realizing the board has rules. Rules prevent unforced errors. When you know compounding rewards patience, you stop panic selling during market dips. When you understand leverage multiplies owners, not employees, you stop trading hours for euros and start building systems. When you see that debt compounds against you, you kill it before it kills your momentum. Scoreboards create feedback loops. Without a scoreboard, you're guessing. With one, you know if you're winning or losing within 15 minutes every week. Feedback tightens decisions. You see what works, double down, and cut what doesn't. No drama, no excuses, just data and action. Roles clarify the next move. A worker sells hours. An operator builds systems. An owner holds equity. An investor allocates capital. Each role unlocks different options. Knowing which role you're in and which one you're moving toward tells you exactly what to learn, what to delegate, and what to stop doing. The only two numbers that matter. Forget the noise. Forget the vanity metrics. Forget the highlight reels. There are two numbers that tell you if you're escaping the rat race or just running faster on the treadmill: free cash flow and net worth. Free cash flow is simple. What's left after you pay for life. Take your monthly income, subtract your expenses, and what remains is your fuel. This is the surplus that buys assets, kills debt, and funds freedom. If your free cash flow is zero or negative, you're stuck. If it's growing, you're moving. Net worth is your scoreboard over time. Add up everything you own, bank accounts, investments, assets that pay you, then subtract everything you owe. The number might be negative today. That's fine. What matters is the direction. Is it rising every month? Then you're winning. Is it flat or falling? Then something in your system is broken and you need to fix it. These two metrics work together. Free cash flow is your monthly engine. Net worth is your cumulative progress. Track both, and you'll never wonder if you're making progress again. Calculating them is fast. Free cash flow, income minus expenses, done. Net worth, assets minus liabilities, done. No complex formulas, no spreadsheets with 47 tabs, just two numbers, updated weekly or monthly, visualized as a trend line. You're not looking for perfection, you're looking for direction. Set a rhythm. Weekly is ideal for free cash flow. It keeps you honest and prevents drift. Monthly works for net worth. It smooths out noise and shows the real trajectory. Put both on a simple chart. When the lines go up and to the right, you're winning. When they flatten or dip, you investigate and adjust. The 4 roles and how to level up. The money game has 4 player types, and most people get stuck at level 1. Workers sell hours for euros. It's the default. You show up, do the work, get paid. The ceiling is obvious. There are only so many hours in a week, and your rate has a cap. You can work harder, but you can't break through. Linear effort, linear results. Operators build systems. They stop doing everything themselves and start documenting, automating, and delegating. An operator doesn't just complete tasks. They design processes that run without them. This is the first leverage unlock. Same effort, bigger output. Owners hold equity. They don't just run systems, they own them. Ownership captures upside. When the system grows, the owner's wealth grows. When the system pays out, the owner collects. Equity is where wealth concentrates because it compounds and scales beyond your personal effort. Investors allocate capital. They've built enough surplus and assets that their primary job is deciding where money works hardest. They're not managing operations, they're managing a portfolio. They think in terms of risk-adjusted returns, asymmetric bets, and compounding over decades. The skills that unlock each step are specific. To move from worker to operator, you need to document processes, spot bottlenecks, and delegate effectively. To move from operator to owner, you need to understand equity structures, cash flow modeling, and how to capture value you create. To move from owner to investor, you need capital allocation frameworks, tax strategy, and the discipline to let compounding run without interference. What you stop doing matters as much as what you start. When you become an operator, you stop doing every task yourself. When you become an owner, you stop trading time for money. When you become an investor, you stop chasing the next shiny opportunity and start protecting what you've built. Most people never leave the worker role because they don't realize there's a map. Now you have it. Winning looks different than you think. Winning isn't a number in your bank account. It's a condition, expenses covered by owned cash flows, equity in systems with leverage, and time autonomy. When your assets pay your rent, your utilities, your core costs, work becomes optional. Not retirement, not escape to an island, just the power to say no to projects that drain you and yes to projects that matter. Equity in systems with leverage means you own something that works without you standing there holding it up. It could be a portfolio of index funds paying dividends. It could be a digital product that sells while you sleep. It could be a small business with documented processes and a team that runs it. The key is ownership plus leverage. Your wealth grows even when you're not actively working. Time autonomy is the ultimate prize. You pick projects for meaning, not money. You negotiate from strength because you can walk away. You rest when you need to rest, not when your boss allows it. Freedom isn't about never working. It's about choosing your work. The lies that keep you stuck. 3 myths trap more people than all the others combined. First, work harder fixes it. It doesn't. Linear effort hits ceilings. You can't out-hustle the math. Hours don't equal outcomes. Systems do. Grinding yourself into burnout doesn't build wealth. It destroys the energy you need to design the systems that do. Second, higher salary guarantees wealth. It doesn't. Lifestyle inflation absorbs raises faster than you can bank them. Without ownership, there's no compounding, and taxes eat a bigger share of earned income than they do of capital gains or dividends. A €100,000 salary with no assets is a treadmill. A €60,000 salary with growing cash flow assets is a launchpad. Third, budgeting alone is enough. It's not. Defense without offense stalls. You can cut expenses to the bone, but if you're not building an asset engine, you're just surviving, not escaping. Morale decays when there's no progress, no wins, no forward motion. You need both. Protect surplus and deploy it into assets that pay you back. How to set up your scoreboard and start moving. Pick your scoreboard today. 2 metrics only: free cash flow and net worth. Automate the capture. Link your accounts to a simple tracker or use a spreadsheet that updates with minimal effort. Baseline where you are right now, then set a 90-day target. Don't aim for perfection, aim for direction. A 10% increase in free cash flow or a €1,000 bump in net worth is a win. Visualize trends, not single points. 1 bad month doesn't mean failure. 3 months of upward movement means your system is working. Plot the numbers on a chart. When you see the line climbing, it reinforces the behavior. When you see it flatten, it triggers investigation. Define your role upgrade. Look at the 4 roles: worker, operator, owner, investor, and choose the next one. List 3 skills that unlock it. If you're moving from worker to operator, maybe it's process documentation, task delegation, and bottleneck analysis. Remove 1 low-value task this week. Add 1 owner behavior, like funding an asset account or writing an SOP for a repeatable process. Set constraints that force progress. Cap your expenses at last year's level, even if your income rises. Automate a transfer to your asset fund on payday. Make it automatic so willpower doesn't enter the equation. Adopt a no-debt rule for wants. Borrow only for assets that pay you back, never for consumption. Simple moves that compound. Public commitment to 1 metric sharpens focus. Tell someone you're tracking free cash flow or net worth. The external accountability keeps you honest. Calendar a recurring scoreboard review. Same day, same time, every week or month. Treat it like a meeting you can't skip. Use a 1-page strategy. Write down your 2 metrics, your current role, your next role, and the 3 constraints you're running. Keep it visible. Boring is good. Complexity is the enemy. Effective beats clever every time. What good, excellent, and best look like. Good. You track free cash flow and net worth monthly. You know the numbers. You see the trend. You're no longer flying blind. Excellent. You hit a 20% surplus 3 months in a row. Your free cash flow is rising consistently. You've proven you can protect surplus and resist lifestyle creep. Best. You've shifted roles and funded your first owned cash flow asset. It's producing €100 or more per month. You're no longer just a worker. You're an owner with equity that pays. When things go wrong. Vague metrics kill momentum. If you're tracking 10 things, you're tracking nothing. Choose 2, automate them, and ignore the rest. Overwhelm is real. If the whole sequence feels like too much, pick 1 role move and commit to it for 90 days. Depth beats breadth. 1 solid step forward is worth 10 scattered attempts. Status chasing is a trap. Remove vanity metrics, followers, likes, job titles that don't pay. Measure cash flow, not claps. The scoreboard doesn't lie, and applause doesn't compound. You now know the rules, the scoreboard, and the roles. You've seen the myths that trap people and the moves that set them free. The game is no longer a mystery. But knowing the rules isn't enough. You need fuel, a widening gap between what you earn and what you spend. Without it, every strategy in this book is just theory. The next chapter reveals how to engineer that gap, protect it from the forces designed to drain it, and turn it into the countdown that ends with freedom. Chapter 3: Escape Math. There's a number that determines how fast you escape the rat race, and most people never calculate it. It's not your salary. It's not your net worth. It's not how hard you work or how smart your investments are. It's simpler and more powerful than all of that. It's the gap between what you earn and what you spend. This gap, call it your freedom spread, is the fuel that powers everything. Without it, you can't buy assets. Without assets, you can't generate cash flow. Without cash flow, you can't escape. The math is brutal and beautiful. Widen the gap, shorten the timeline. shrink the gap, and you're running in place no matter how fast you move. This chapter shows you how to engineer that gap, protect it from the invisible forces designed to drain it, and turn it into a precise countdown. By the end, you'll know exactly how many months stand between you and optional work, and you'll have the constraints in place to make those months pass faster than you thought possible. Why surplus is the only thing that matters. Here's the chain. Surplus funds ownership. Ownership enables compounding. Compounding buys freedom. Break any link, and the whole sequence collapses. You can't buy an asset without surplus. You can't invest in index funds, build a digital product, or acquire anything that pays you if every euro you earn is already spoken for. Surplus is the oxygen. No oxygen, no fire. Ownership is where wealth concentrates. Workers trade time for money and hit a ceiling. Owners hold equity that grows, pays, and scales beyond their hours. But you can't become an owner without capital to deploy, and capital comes from surplus. Compounding is the engine, but it needs fuel to run. A 10% return on zero is zero. A 10% return on 10,000 euro is 1,000 euro. A 10% return on 100,000 euro is 10,000 euro. The base matters. Surplus builds the base. The bigger the surplus, the faster the base grows, the harder compounding works for you. The timeline from paycheck dependence to optional work is a function of one variable, how much surplus you create and protect each month. Everything else is noise. The freedom spread, what it is and why it's your new obsession. The freedom spread is the percentage of your income that doesn't get spent. If you earn 3,000 euro and spend 2,700 euro, your spread is 10%. If you earn 3,000 euro and spend 20,400, your spread is 20%. If you earn 3,000 euro and spend 2,100 euro, your spread is 30%. 10% is a start. It proves you can create surplus. 20% is momentum. It means you're serious, and the timeline to freedom is visible. 30% or more is escape velocity. At that rate, you're compressing years into months. The spread has two levers, income and expenses. You can expand income, compress expenses, or ideally both. Most people focus only on income. They chase raises, side gigs, promotions. But if expenses rise in lockstep, the spread stays flat. You're earning more and going nowhere. Fixed costs are the silent killer. Rent, car payments, subscriptions, insurance, they don't flex. Once you commit, they're locked in. Every fixed cost you add shrinks your future flexibility. Variable costs, entertainment, travel, discretionary spending are easier to adjust, but they're also easier to justify. I earned it becomes the excuse that drains the surplus before it compounds. Income expansion is powerful, but only if you capture the gain. A 500 euro raise that turns into a 500 euro lifestyle upgrade is a zero-sum move. The trick is to freeze lifestyle at the old level and route every new euro into surplus. Pre-commit before the money hits your account, or it will vanish into spending you won't even remember. The countdown, turning surplus into a timeline. Here's where it gets motivating. You can model exactly how long it takes to hit key milestones based on your surplus rate. Let's say your monthly expenses are 2,000 euro. A 6-month emergency buffer requires 12,000 euro. If your surplus is 400 euro per month, that's 30 months to full coverage. If your surplus is 600 euro per month, it's 20 months. If your surplus is 800 euro per month, it's 15 months. The sensitivity is dramatic. Small changes in surplus create massive changes in timeline. Now model your first cash flow asset. Let's say you want to build or buy something that generates 300 euros per month. At a conservative 10% annual return, you need roughly 36,000 euro deployed. If your surplus is 400 euro per month and you're reinvesting early cash flows, you might hit that target in 6 to 7 years. If your surplus is 800 euro per month, you cut the timeline in half. The feedback loop is real. Surplus buys assets. Assets generate cash flow. Cash flow gets reinvested, which accelerates surplus. The spread widens, the timeline shortens, and momentum builds. This is the positive feedback loop that separates people who escape from people who just dream about it. Run the numbers for yourself. Pick a target, 6-month buffer, first 300 euro a month asset, full expense coverage, and calculate months to arrival at your current surplus rate. Then calculate it again at 10% higher surplus, then 20% higher. Watch the timeline collapse. That's the power of the spread. The lies that keep the spread narrow. 2 myths trap people in paycheck prison. First, you can't save your way to wealth. There's a kernel of truth here. You do need to invest, not just hoard cash. But the saying is used to justify spending, and that's where it becomes poison. You must save to invest. Savings rate drives timeline. A 10% savings rate means you need to work roughly 9 years to fund 1 year of freedom. A 50% savings rate means you need to work 1 year to fund 1 year of freedom. The math is unforgiving. Offense without defense leaks. You can chase income all you want, but if you can't protect surplus, you'll never build the base that compounds. Second, small cuts don't matter. They do. Micro leaks compound like debt. A €15 subscription you forgot about costs €180 per year. Over 10 years, that's €1,800, plus the opportunity cost of what that €1,800 could have earned if invested. 5 micro leaks and you've bled thousands without noticing. Friction beats willpower. You won't remember to cancel subscriptions or avoid impulse buys through sheer discipline. But if you add friction, unsubscribe from marketing emails, remove saved payment methods, require a 24-hour delay on non-essentials, the behavior changes without effort. Visibility creates choice. When you see the cumulative cost of small leaks, you make different decisions. How to build and protect your spread. Set an expense cap this week. Look at last year's spending and cap yourself at that level or lower. If you got a raise this year, freeze lifestyle at the old income level. The new money goes straight to surplus, automatically, before you see it. Pre-commit transfers on payday. The moment income hits your account, a fixed amount moves to your asset fund. Make it automatic. Willpower is a terrible strategy. Automation is a perfect one. You can't spend what you don't see. Engineer income bumps strategically. One pricing move. Raise your rates if you're freelance. Ask for a salary adjustment if you're employed. Can add hundreds per month. Add a small, scalable offer. If you have a skill people pay for, package it. Monetize idle assets. Rent out a parking space. Sell tools you don't use. Turn knowledge into a digital product. Small streams add up, and every new euro of income that doesn't trigger new spending widens the spread. Run the countdown monthly. Project months to your 6-month buffer. Project months to your first €300 per month asset. Visualize the timeline shrinking. Adjust constraints when progress stalls. If the spread isn't widening, something in your system is broken. Find it and fix it. Friction, delays, and celebrations. A 24-hour delay on non-essentials kills most impulse buys. See something you want? Wait a day. Half the time, the desire fades. The other half, you buy it consciously, not reactively. Friction-first unsubscribes and cancellations are your friend. Go through your bank statement. Identify every recurring charge. Cancel anything you don't actively use. The friction of resubscribing later protects you from zombie expenses that drain surplus for years. Celebrate surplus, not purchases. Every month, you hit your surplus target, mark it, track the cumulative total, watch it grow. The dopamine hit from seeing your asset fund climb is more durable than the dopamine hit from a new gadget that loses its shine in a week. What good, excellent, and best look like? Good. You achieve a 10% surplus within 30 days. You've proven you can create and protect a gap. The engine is running. Excellent. You hit a 20% surplus and reduce one fixed cost by €100 or more per month. You've widened the spread through both levers, income and expenses, and the timeline is compressing. Best, you're running a 30% or higher surplus, and you can see a 12-month escape runway. At this rate, every year of disciplined execution buys you months of optional work. Freedom is no longer theoretical, it's a countdown you can track. When the spread tries to close, raise relapse is real. You get a bump in income, and within weeks, your spending rises to match. The fix: pre-commit the new surplus before the raise hits. Automate the transfer, increase the same day you get the news. Social pressure will test you. Friends upgrade, colleagues lease new cars. The group dinner costs more than you budgeted. Script polite refusals. Suggest low-cost alternatives. Protect the spread like it's your oxygen, because it is. Income dips happen. Freelance work slows. Hours get cut. The economy shifts. When income drops, protect the cap. Switch to emergency spend mode. Essentials only. No discretionary until income stabilizes. The spread might narrow temporarily, but the discipline holds. The spread is the difference between stuck and free. You now know the variable that determines your timeline. It's not luck. It's not talent. It's not market timing. It's the gap between what you earn and what you spend, protected by constraints that survive real life. Widen the gap, shorten the timeline, shrink the gap, and you're running in place. The math doesn't care about your intentions. It only cares about the surplus you create and deploy. But surplus alone isn't enough. You need a system that protects it from the chaos that resets most people to zero every few months. The next chapter reveals how to build that system, a defense structure so simple and so ruthless that emergencies become inconveniences and compounding becomes inevitable. Chapter 4, Defense First. You can build the perfect wealth strategy and lose it all in a single bad month. It happens quietly. A car breaks down. A medical bill arrives. Hours get cut. The emergency fund you meant to build never materialized, so you reach for the credit card. The balance grows. Interest compounds. Momentum dies. A year of progress erased because you skipped the boring part. Defense. Here's the truth most financial advice ignores. Offense without defense is a gamble. You can chase returns, stack income streams, and optimize allocations all you want, but if one shock resets you to zero, none of it matters. Survival precedes success. Stability precedes speed. This chapter builds the shock-absorbing system that keeps you in the game. You'll construct buffers that buy time and calm, eliminate debt that compounds against you, and patch the catastrophic risks that could wipe out a decade of compounding. By the end, emergencies become inconveniences, and you'll have the foundation that makes everything else possible. Why fragility kills compounding? You can't compound if you're constantly resetting to zero. Compounding needs time and consistency. Every time you drain savings to cover an emergency, every time you add debt to survive a rough patch, you're restarting the clock. The math is unforgiving. A portfolio that grows 10% one year and loses 10% the next doesn't break even, it ends down. Variance kills fragile plans faster than bad strategy. Buffers buy time and calm. When the car breaks, you pull from the buffer, fix it, and refill the account over the next few months. No drama, no debt, no momentum lost. The buffer absorbs the shock so your asset engine keeps running. Without it, every unexpected expense becomes a crisis that derails progress. Debt interest compounds against you. A 7% investment return sounds good until you realize you're paying 18% on a credit card balance. Negative compounding beats positive compounding every time. High-interest debt is a leak that drains surplus faster than you can create it. You're running uphill with a weight tied to your ankle. Kill the debt, and suddenly the same effort moves you twice as far. Insurance protects from ruin, not inconvenience. You don't insure against small losses. You can absorb those with your buffer. You insure against large, rare losses that would destroy your financial life. A major health event, liability that wipes out your assets, the loss of income-earning capacity. These are tail risks, low probability, catastrophic impact. One claim can save a decade of compounding. Ignore them, and you're one accident away from starting over. The 3-stage buffer, building your shock absorber. The buffer isn't one number, it's a progression. You build it in stages because trying to save 6 months of expenses all at once is overwhelming and demotivating. Break it into milestones, and each stage delivers immediate psychological and practical value. Stage 1 is 1 month of essentials, not your full lifestyle, just the non-negotiables. Rent, utilities, minimum debt payments, transportation, basic necessities. Calculate that number, then fund it. This is your first line of defense. It won't cover a long crisis, but it buys you 30 days to think, plan, and act without panic. Stage 2 is 3 months. Now you're covering a job loss, a temporary income dip, or a string of smaller emergencies without breaking stride. 3 months gives you breathing room. It's the difference between desperation and negotiation. You can walk away from a bad situation because you have time to find a better one. Stage 3 is 6 months. At this level, you're anti-fragile. Major disruptions, layoffs, health issues, market downturns don't reset you. You have the runway to retrain, pivot, or wait out volatility without selling assets at the worst possible time. 6 months of liquidity is freedom in its purest form, the power to say no and mean it. Keep the buffer liquid and boring. High-yield savings, money market accounts, anything you can access in 24 hours without penalty. Don't chase yield here. The buffer's job is stability, not growth. Complexity adds risk. Boring wins. The debt kill order, destroying negative compounding. Not all debt is created equal. Some debt is cheap and backed by cash flow, mortgages at 3%, business loans funding revenue-generating assets. That's leverage. Other debt is expensive and backed by nothing. Credit cards at 18%, payday loans at 400%. That's a trap. The kill order is simple. List every debt, its balance, its APR, and its minimum payment. Rank them by APR, highest to lowest. Target the highest APR with every spare euro while paying minimums on the rest. This is the avalanche method, and it's mathematically optimal. You destroy the most expensive debt first, which frees up the most cash flow soonest. When the first debt is gone, roll that freed payment into the next highest APR. The snowball effect kicks in, not because of psychology, but because of math. Each debt you eliminate frees up cash that accelerates the next kill. The timeline compresses. Momentum builds. Freeze new credit use while you execute the plan. Adding debt while trying to eliminate it is like bailing water into a sinking boat. Lock the cards. Remove them from your wallet. Delete saved payment methods online. Add friction so impulse doesn't sabotage progress. Negotiate where you can. Call creditors. Ask for lower APRs. Explore balance transfers to 0% promotional rates if you can commit to paying off the balance before the promo ends. Negotiate payoff terms. Some creditors will settle for less than the full balance if you can pay a lump sum. Every percentage point you shave off APR is money saved and time reclaimed. Schedule automatic overpayments. Willpower fails. Automation doesn't. Set up recurring transfers that hit the highest APR debt every payday. Make it invisible. The debt shrinks without you thinking about it. The risk checklist, patching catastrophic gaps. Most people are either overinsured or underinsured, and both are expensive mistakes. Overinsured means you're paying for coverage you don't need. Low deductibles, riders that sound good but rarely pay out, policies that overlap. Underinsured means you're exposed to a tail risk that could wipe you out. The goal is minimal catastrophic risk coverage. Insure only what you can't afford to lose. A €500 car repair? Absorb it with your buffer. A €50,000 liability claim? That's what insurance is for. Create a simple risk checklist. Start with 4 categories: income stability, health, liability, and asset protection. Rank each risk by severity times likelihood. A low probability, high severity event, like a major lawsuit, ranks high. A high probability, low severity event, like a minor fender bender, ranks low. Mitigate the top 3 risks this month. If you're underinsured for health, get coverage. If you have significant assets and no liability umbrella, add one. If your income depends entirely on your ability to work and you have no disability insurance, fix that gap. Don't try to solve everything at once. Pick the 3 risks that would hurt most and patch them. Avoid bells and whistles that add cost without value. Insurance companies profit by selling you coverage you'll never use. Read the exclusions. Understand the deductibles. Know what's actually covered. A cheap policy with clear terms beats an expensive policy with vague promises. Review annually. Life changes. Income rises. Assets grow. Risks shift. What made sense 2 years ago might be inadequate today. Calendar a 30-minute review every year. Adjust coverage. Update beneficiaries. Confirm nothing critical is exposed. The lies that keep you fragile. 2 myths keep people underdefended. First, debt is always leverage. It's not. Leverage is debt backed by cash flow and used to acquire appreciating or income-producing assets. A mortgage on a rental property that pays for itself is leverage. A credit card balance from a vacation is a trap. High-interest consumer debt doesn't build wealth, it destroys it. Variable rate debt adds another layer of risk. Rates rise, payments spike, and suddenly you're underwater. Know the difference. Use leverage strategically. Avoid debt that compounds against you. Second, insurance is wasted money. It's not. Insurance buys resilience, not yield. You're not trying to profit from it, you're trying to survive the events that would otherwise ruin you. One claim, one major health event, one lawsuit, one disability can save a decade of compounding. The premiums are the cost of staying in the game. Know your deductibles, know your exclusions, but don't skip coverage on tail risks because it probably won't happen. Probably isn't good enough when the downside is catastrophic. How to build the system. Open a separate account today and label it Do Not Touch. This is your buffer. Automate weekly transfers. Even €25 per week adds up. The key is consistency and separation. If the buffer sits in your checking account, you'll spend it. If it's in a separate account with no debit card, it's protected. Refill immediately after any draw. The buffer's job is to absorb shocks, not to sit idle forever. When you use it, treat refilling it as your top financial priority until it's back to full strength. This discipline is what keeps the system working. Execute the debt plan with ruthless focus. List the debts, rank by APR, automate overpayments, track total interest avoided, not just paid but avoided by killing debt early. Celebrate that number. It's money you're keeping instead of giving away. Build your risk checklist and act on it. Don't overthink. Don't delay. Identify the top 3 risks. Mitigate them this month. Keep the documentation, policies, terms, contact info in a single folder you can access in 5 minutes. What good, excellent, and best look like. Good. You have a 1-month buffer, and you've started overpaying high-interest debt. You're no longer one emergency away from crisis. The foundation is in place. Excellent. You have a 3-month buffer, and you've fully cleared 1 debt. Momentum is visible. The system is working. You're building resilience and destroying negative compounding simultaneously. Best. You have a 6-month buffer. All high-interest debt is eliminated, and your risk checklist is clean. You're anti-fragile. Shocks don't reset you. You can focus entirely on offense because defense is handled. When the system tries to break, buffer raids happen. You see the balance and think, I could use that for... Stop. Rename the account something boring and unmotivating. Remove debit card access. Make it harder to touch. The buffer is not discretionary spending. It's your survival system. Debt shuffle is tempting. Balance transfers, consolidation loans, refinancing, they all sound like solutions. But if you're just moving debt around without actually paying it off, you're stalling. Lock the accounts. Set an auto-pay plan. Commit to the kill order and execute. Underinsured tail risks are invisible until they're not. Don't skip the annual review. Don't assume last year's coverage is still adequate. Life changes, risks shift. Stay ahead of it. You now have the defense system that keeps you in the game. Buffers absorb shocks. Debt dies. Risks are patched. Compounding can finally run without interruption. But defense alone doesn't build wealth. It just protects it. The next move is where the real transformation begins. Crossing the line from selling hours to owning something that pays you while you sleep. Chapter 5. Own assets. There's a line most people never cross, and it's the difference between working until you can't and working because you want to. On one side of the line, you sell hours. You trade time for money, and when the hours stop, the money stops. You can optimize, hustle harder, negotiate better rates, but you're still renting your life back one paycheck at a time. On the other side of the line, you own something that pays you. The asset works. You collect. The ceiling disappears. Crossing that line isn't reserved for the wealthy or the lucky. It's a decision followed by a system. This chapter shows you how to choose your first cash flow asset, fund it without gambling your stability, and build a tiny portfolio that keeps paying long after the initial effort ends. By the end, you'll know exactly what to buy or build in the next 90 days, and why ownership is the only move that breaks the time for money trap for good. Why ownership is the only ceiling breaker. Hours have a hard limit. There are 168 in a week. Sleep, obligations, and basic human needs consume most of them. Even if you could sell every waking hour at top rates, you'd hit a ceiling fast, and you'd burn out long before you got there. Equity captures upside and pricing power. When you own an asset, a business, a portfolio, a product, a system, you benefit from every efficiency gain, every price increase, every compounding cycle. Workers get paid for the hour, owners get paid for the outcome, and outcomes can scale infinitely. Assets work while you sleep. Hours don't. A dividend-paying index fund generates returns whether you're awake or not. A digital product sells at 3 a.m. without you lifting a finger. A documented system runs while you're on vacation. Ownership decouples income from presence, and that's where freedom lives. Ownership creates leverage-ready platforms. Once you own an asset, you can layer systems, capital, and distribution on top of it. You can automate operations, reinvest cash flows, and expand reach without expanding effort. Workers can't do this. Operators can build systems, but only owners capture the compounding value those systems create. The shift from selling hours to owning cash flow is the single most important financial move you'll make. Everything before this chapter was preparation. Everything after this chapter is acceleration. The asset filter, 3 questions that protect you. Not all assets are created equal. Some pay quickly, some take years, some are simple, some are opaque, some risk pennies, some risk everything. You need a filter, a simple set of criteria that separates good first assets from expensive distractions. The filter has 3 questions. First, does it pay me? Not someday, not theoretically. Does it generate cash flow within 90 to 180 days? If the answer is no, it's not a first asset. Appreciation is great, but cash flow is what funds the next move. You need proof the asset works, and proof comes in the form of euros hitting your account. Second, do I get it? Can you explain how the asset makes money in 1 page or less? If you can't, you don't understand it well enough to own it. Complexity hides risk. Simple assets, index funds, small digital products, royalties from work you control are transparent. You see the inputs, the process, and the outputs. Opaque assets, exotic derivatives, ventures you don't understand, schemes that promise magic are traps. Third, can I cap the risk? What's the worst-case scenario defined in euros? If you can't answer that question, you're gambling, not investing. A €500 investment in an index fund has a capped downside. You could lose €500. A business with undefined liabilities has uncapped downside. You could lose everything. Know the floor before you step on it. These 3 questions, pays me, I get it, I can cap risk, are your guardrails. They prevent the mistakes that cost years. Chasing assets you don't understand, waiting forever for returns that never come, and risking more than you can afford to lose. 3 paths to your first asset. You have 3 options: buy, build, or hybrid. Each has trade-offs. Each works. The key is picking one and committing for 90 days. The buy path is the simplest. You acquire an existing asset that already generates cash flow. The classic version is a low-cost index fund that pays dividends. You contribute regularly, reinvest the dividends, and let compounding do the work. It's boring. It's proven. It requires no special skill beyond discipline. The downside: returns are modest, and you have no control over the underlying operations. The build path is higher effort, higher control. You create a small digital product, a template, a guide, a tool, and sell it. Or you produce content that generates royalties or affiliate income. The upside: you own 100% of the economics, and if it works, the margins are high. The downside: it takes time to build, and there's no guarantee it sells. The hybrid path blends both. You start with a service, something you already do and get paid for, and productize it. You document the process, create templates, and turn one-time work into repeatable, scalable offers. Over time, the service funds the product, and the product reduces your reliance on hours. Pick the path that matches your current resources. Low capital, high time, build. High capital, low time, buy. Moderate, both, hybrid. Don't overthink it. The goal isn't perfection, it's momentum. Your first asset teaches you how ownership works. Your second asset benefits from those lessons. Building the core satellite structure. Once you own one asset, the next move is to build a small, resilient portfolio around it. This is the core satellite structure. One stable, reliable core asset that anchors everything, plus a few smaller satellites that add diversification and upside. The core is your foundation. It should be low maintenance, predictable, and aligned with your circle of competence. For most people, this is a low-cost index fund or a simple digital product with proven demand. The core doesn't need to be exciting. It needs to be dependable. Satellites are smaller bets with higher potential. Maybe it's a second product in a related niche. Maybe it's a royalty stream from content you've created. Maybe it's a small allocation to an individual stock you understand deeply. Satellites add optionality and allow you to experiment without risking the core. Reinvestment paths matter. When the core generates cash flow, where does it go? Back into the core to accelerate compounding, into a satellite to diversify, into your buffer to increase stability. Define the rule in advance. Automate it. Let the system decide, not your mood. Document an asset operating procedure, a simple SOP that explains how the asset works, how you maintain it, and how you measure success. This isn't bureaucracy, it's insurance. If you get sick, distracted, or burned out, the SOP ensures the asset keeps running. It also makes the asset sellable if you ever want to exit. The lies that keep you stuck selling hours. 3 myths prevent people from crossing the ownership line. First, you need huge capital. You don't. Small, steady contributions compound meaningfully over time. A €100 monthly investment at 7% annual return becomes €15,000 in 10 years. Micro assets like digital products can start at zero capital, just time, skill, and distribution. Time investment can substitute for early capital if you're willing to build instead of buy. Second, passive income is fake. It's not fake, it's misunderstood. Passive income is front-loaded work followed by lighter maintenance. You build the system, document the process, automate what you can, and then maintain it with minimal ongoing effort. Maintenance isn't zero, but it's not full-time labor either. A few hours a month to keep an asset running beats 40 hours a week selling your time. Third, only experts can own good assets. False. The circle of competence constraint protects you. Stay inside what you understand, and you'll avoid most catastrophic mistakes. Simple beats complex for most owners. Index funds beat stock picking for most investors. A straightforward digital product beats a complicated venture for most builders. Understandable risks are manageable. Exotic risks are not. How to launch your first asset in 90 days. Start by running the asset filter on every option you're considering. Does it pay you within 90 to 180 days? Can you explain it in one page? Can you define the worst-case loss in euros? If any answer is no, move on. Choose your starter path. Buy, build, or hybrid. Commit to one. Defer the others to a later list so they don't distract you. Fund the asset with automatic transfers. Open an account labeled Asset Fund. Set up a recurring transfer from your main account on payday. Even €50 per week adds up. The key is consistency and separation. The asset fund is not discretionary spending. It's your ownership engine. Launch within 90 days. If you're buying, make the first purchase. If you're building, ship the minimum viable version. If you're doing hybrid, document the service and create the first template. Speed matters more than polish. Your first asset won't be perfect, and that's fine. It's a learning vehicle, not a masterpiece. Publish your asset SOP and track one weekly metric. For an index fund, it's total value and dividend yield. For a digital product, it's units sold and revenue. For a hybrid service product, it's active clients and productized sales. One metric, reviewed weekly, keeps you honest and focused. Standardize, track, reinvest. Standardize before you scale. If the asset requires ongoing work, document the process. Create checklists, record videos, write SOAPs. The goal is to make the asset run with minimal cognitive load. If you can't standardize it, you can't scale it. Track cash-on-cash return quarterly. How much did you invest? How much cash flow did it generate? The ratio tells you if the asset is working. If returns are below expectations, investigate. If they're above, double down. Reinvest the first €1,000 of profits automatically. Don't celebrate by spending it, celebrate by compounding it. The first reinvestment cycle proves the flywheel works. Surplus buys assets, assets generate cash flow funds more assets. Once you see it work, you'll never go back to selling hours. What good, excellent, and best look like. Good, your first asset is paying 50 to €100 per month. It's small, but it's real. You've crossed the line from worker to owner. Excellent, you have two assets totaling €300 to €500 per month. The core is stable. A satellite is adding diversification. The portfolio is starting to matter. Best, you have one scalable asset on track to €1,000 or more per month with a written SOP. The asset runs with minimal effort. You're reinvesting cash flows. The flywheel is spinning. When the system tries to derail you, shiny object drift is the killer. You'll see a new opportunity every week. Lock your 90-day focus. Defer everything else to the later list. One asset, fully operational, beats 10 half-started ideas. Over-leverage is tempting. Debt can accelerate growth, but only if the asset's cash flow covers the payments. Require a cash flow coverage test before borrowing. If the asset can't service the debt in a downturn, don't take the loan. Complexity creep sneaks in. You'll want to add features, optimize processes, chase marginal gains. Resist. Simplify to one metric, one SO, one improvement per week. Complexity kills momentum. Simple compounds. You now own something that pays you. The ceiling is broken. The flywheel is starting to turn. But ownership alone isn't enough to escape the rat race. You need to multiply the output without multiplying the effort. The next chapter reveals how to stack the force multipliers that turn a single asset into a self-sustaining system that grows while you sleep. Chapter 6, Leverage Stack. You own an asset now and it's paying you, but you're still doing all the work. Every sale requires your attention. Every customer question pulls you away from building. Every operational task eats hours you could spend on the next move. You've crossed the ownership line, but you're still trapped in execution. The asset pays, but it doesn't scale. You've swapped one treadmill for another. Here's the problem. Ownership without leverage is just a different kind of job. Real freedom comes when your effort produces results somewhere else, without you standing there holding it up. When the system runs while you sleep, when 1 hour of work creates 10 hours of output, when your presence becomes optional because the infrastructure does the heavy lifting. This chapter hands you the 4 levers that multiply output without multiplying hours. You'll build a simple flywheel, document, automate, delegate, distribute, that turns manual labor into systematic results. By the end, you'll know exactly which bottleneck to remove first and how to design a system that scales while you step back. Why leverage is the only way to break free. Time and income are linked by default. You work an hour, you earn a rate. Work more hours, earn more money. Stop working, stop earning. It's clean, predictable, and capped. Leverage breaks that link. Same hour, bigger reach. When you automate a task, that task runs 100 times without additional effort. When you create content that distributes itself, one piece of work reaches thousands. When you delegate with clear systems, your capacity multiplies without your hours increasing. Leverage is a ratio, more output per unit input. Same effort, lower cost. Manual processes are expensive. Every repetition costs time, attention, and energy. Automated processes cost once when you build them and then run for free. Delegation shifts cost from your premium hours to someone else's specialized hours. The economics flip. Instead of you doing everything at high cost, the system does most things at low cost while you focus on the critical few decisions only you can make. Same you, greater impact. Without leverage, your impact is capped by your personal capacity. With leverage, your impact is capped only by the quality of your systems and the reach of your distribution. One person with leverage can outperform a team without it. The difference isn't talent or effort, it's infrastructure. The 4 levers that scale everything. Leverage comes in 4 forms, and each one multiplies differently. Code is the first lever. Automation, scripts, templates, anything that turns manual repetition into a one-click process. Code doesn't mean you need to be a programmer. It means you use tools that do the work for you, email sequences that nurture leads automatically, spreadsheets that calculate metrics without manual entry, templates that turn a 2-hour task into a 10-minute task. Code scales perfectly. Write it once, run it infinitely. Media is the second lever, content that works while you sleep. A blog post that ranks in search and drives traffic for years. A video that answers the same question 1,000 times without you repeating yourself. An email that sells a product to someone you've never met. Media decouples your presence from your impact. You create once, distribute widely, and collect results long after the initial effort ends. Capital is the third lever, money working in systems. This isn't just investing in index funds, though that's part of it. It's deploying cash into assets, tools, and infrastructure that generate returns without your active involvement. Capital buys automation. Capital funds delegation. Capital scales distribution. The more surplus you create, the more capital you can deploy, and the faster the flywheel spins. People is the fourth lever, delegation powered by clear systems. You can't do everything yourself, and you shouldn't try, but hiring without systems is chaos. People need SOAPs, examples, and definitions of done. When you delegate with clarity, quality rises instead of falling. You focus on the critical 10%, the decisions and actions only you can make, and the team handles the rest. These four levers stack. Code automates the repetitive. Media amplifies the message. Capital funds the infrastructure. People execute the systems. Together, they turn a one-person operation into a scalable engine. The systemization flywheel. Document, automate, delegate, distribute. Leverage doesn't happen by accident. It's designed. The sequence matters because each step builds the platform for the next. First, document. You can't automate what you haven't clarified. You can't delegate what you can't explain. Start by recording the process step by step. What triggers the task? What are the steps? What's the output? Write it down. A one-page SOP is enough. The goal isn't perfection, it's clarity. Second, automate. Look at the documented process and ask, which parts can a tool handle? Use built-in automations where possible. Email platforms, CRM systems, scheduling tools. Create templates for repeated outputs. If you write the same email 10 times, turn it into a template with fill-in-the-blank fields. Add a manual override for exceptions so the system doesn't break when edge cases appear. Third, delegate. Once the process is documented and partially automated, hand it off. Hire for process, not genius. You're not looking for someone to reinvent the wheel. You're looking for someone to follow the SOP and improve it over time. Provide the SOP, an example of good work, and a clear definition of done. Review on a fixed cadence, weekly at first, then monthly as trust builds. Fourth, distribute. Amplify the output. Identify your top channel, the platform where your audience already gathers. Repurpose assets across platforms. Turn a blog post into a video into a thread into an email. Measure reach per hour. How many people did this piece of work touch? Optimize for leverage, not volume. Each cycle through the flywheel removes a bottleneck. Each bottleneck removed frees up hours. Each hour freed gets reinvested into the next cycle. The system compounds like money. The lies that keep you doing everything yourself. 3 myths trap people in manual labor. First, only big companies use leverage. False. Solo owners can out-automate teams because they're not burdened by bureaucracy. Tools are cheap. Most automation platforms cost less than a single hour of your time per month. Clarity is scarce, but that's a solvable problem. Mini SOPs outperform memory every time. You don't need a corporation to build systems. You just need discipline. Second, delegation lowers quality. It doesn't. Bad delegation does. Quality rises with checklists and reviews. When you provide a clear SOP, examples, and feedback loops, the person executing the task improves over time. You, the owner, focus on the critical 10%, the strategic decisions, the client relationships, the high-leverage moves. The rest gets handled by people who specialize in execution. Feedback loops close gaps. Weekly reviews catch errors early. Monthly retrospectives refine the process. Third, automation is expensive. It's not. Start with no-code tools and simple scripts. Most platforms offer free tiers that handle small-scale operations. Measure ROI by hours saved, not dollars spent. If a 20-month tool saves you 5 hours per month and your time is worth 50 euros per hour, that's a 12x return. Remove tools that don't pay back. Quarterly audits keep your stack lean and effective. How to remove your first bottleneck this week. Start by mapping your workflow. Look at everything you did last week and identify one choke point, a task that costs 3 or more hours per week and feels repetitive. Customer onboarding, invoice generation, content scheduling, social media posting. Pick one. Record the process step by step. Don't skip this. Open a document and write trigger, steps, output. What starts the task? What are the actions? What's the finished result? If you can't explain it clearly, you don't understand it well enough to automate or delegate it. Draft a one-page SOP. Keep it simple. Use bullet points if needed, but make it readable in under 5 minutes. The SOP is your blueprint. It's what you'll hand to a tool or a person when you're ready to offload the task. Automate one repetitive task this week. Look at the SOP and ask, which steps can a tool handle? Use built-in automations first. Email platforms, scheduling apps, CRM systems. If the tool doesn't exist, create a template. Turn a recurring email into a saved draft. Turn a weekly report into a spreadsheet that auto-populates. Add a manual override so exceptions don't break the system. Delegate the next task. Once you've automated what you can, delegate what remains. Hire for process, not genius. Provide the SOP, show an example of good work, and define what done looks like. Review the output on a fixed cadence, weekly at first, then less frequently as the person proves reliable. Amplify with distribution. Identify your top channel, the platform where your audience already exists. Repurpose your best assets across multiple formats. A single piece of content can become a blog post, a video, a thread, an email, and a slide deck. Measure reach per hour and optimize for leverage. Simple moves that compound. Screen record once, train many. Instead of explaining a process verbally every time someone asks, record your screen as you walk through it. Save the video. Share the link. One recording trains 10 people without repeating yourself. Use stop, start, continue reviews weekly. What should we stop doing? What should we start doing? What should we continue doing? 3 questions, 5 minutes, massive clarity. It keeps the system evolving without overthinking. Trim tools quarterly. Every 3 months, audit your stack. Which tools are you actually using? Which ones are duplicates? Which ones cost more than they save? Consolidate to one stack. Retire duplicates. Fewer better tools beat a sprawling mess. What good, excellent, and best look like? Good. You've automated one process and you're saving 3 or more hours per week. The bottleneck is gone. You've proven the flywheel works. Excellent. You have 2 documented SOPs, 1 delegated function, and you're saving 6 to 8 hours per week. The system is running. You're focusing on higher leverage work. Best, you have a repeatable system running a cash flow asset largely without you. The asset generates income. The system handles operations. You spend your time on strategy, not execution. When the system tries to break, tool sprawl kills momentum. You'll try a new app every week, and soon you'll have 10 tools doing the same job. Consolidate to one stack. Retire duplicates. Simplicity beats complexity. Bad delegation happens when the SOP is unclear. If the output doesn't match expectations, don't blame the person. Improve the SOP. Add acceptance criteria. Show examples. Tighten the feedback loop. Over-automation is real. Not everything should be automated. Keep a manual fallback for edge cases. Audit failure points monthly. If the automation breaks more than it helps, simplify or remove it. You now have the levers that multiply output without multiplying hours. Code automates. Media amplifies. Capital funds. People execute. The flywheel is spinning, and every cycle frees up time you can reinvest into the next move. But leverage without smart allocation is wasted potential. The next chapter reveals how to deploy surplus and cash flow into opportunities that compound faster than you thought possible, and how to do it without gambling your progress on noise. Chapter 7. Allocate capital. You're creating surplus, owning assets, and building leverage, but there's a decision you make every month that determines whether you escape in 5 years or 15. It's not how much you earn. It's not how hard you work. It's where you put the money. Every euro of surplus is a soldier waiting for orders. Send it to the wrong battlefield, and it dies quietly. Send it to the right one, and it multiplies while you sleep. Most people treat allocation like a guess. Winners treat it like a system. Capital allocation is the owner's superpower. It's the skill that separates people who build wealth from people who just accumulate stuff. This chapter shows you how to rank opportunities, size bets, and time reinvestment so your surplus compounds faster than you thought possible. By the end, you'll have a one-page policy that removes emotion, tames cognitive traps, and turns allocation into a calm, mechanical process that runs regardless of market noise. Why allocation is the difference between slow and fast. Surplus is fuel. Allocation is the engine. You can generate massive surplus, but if you park it in a checking account earning nothing, inflation eats it. You can own great assets, but if you never reinvest the cash flow, growth stalls. Allocation turns surplus into freedom, fast. Right bet sizing protects against ruin. Too small, and you're not moving the needle. Too big, and one bad outcome wipes you out. The math is unforgiving. Lose 50% and you need a 100% gain just to break even. Bet sizing isn't about being conservative or aggressive. It's about surviving long enough for compounding to work. You can't compound if you're resetting to zero. Reinvestment accelerates the flywheel. When your assets generate cash flow, you have a choice: spend it or reinvest it. Spending feels good for a moment. Reinvesting compounds forever. The first €1,000 reinvested becomes 110, then 1,331. The second €1,000 you spend is just gone. Reinvestment discipline creates escape velocity, the point where your assets grow faster than your expenses, and freedom becomes inevitable. Tax awareness preserves gains. A 10% return sounds great until you realize taxes take 30% of it, leaving you with 7%. After-tax returns are the only returns that matter. Structure matters. Holding periods matter. Income type matters. Ignore taxes, and you're giving away years of compounding to inefficiency. The one-page policy that removes emotion. Most people allocate based on mood. They chase heat when markets rise. They panic sell when markets fall. They overconcentrate in whatever worked last quarter. Emotion is expensive. Policy is cheap. A one-page investment policy is your rule book. It defines 3 things: eligibility filters, position sizing rules, and rebalancing cadence. Write it once, follow it forever. Adjust only when your life changes, not when the market moves. Eligibility filters answer one question: does this opportunity qualify? Use the same 3 criteria from earlier chapters. Does it fit my circle of competence? Do I understand how it makes money? Does it generate cash flow or have a clear path to it? Can I define the downside in euros? If any answer is no, it doesn't qualify. Move on. Position sizing rules prevent ruin and overconcentration. Set caps. No single position exceeds a fixed percentage of your portfolio. Set ramps. New positions start small and grow only after they prove themselves. If you're allocating to an index fund, maybe it's 70% of your portfolio. If you're betting on a single stock you understand deeply, maybe it's 5%. The rule protects you from yourself. Rebalancing cadence removes the "when should I act" question. Monthly or quarterly, you review your portfolio. If positions have drifted beyond your caps, you trim winners and add to laggards. If new surplus has accumulated, you deploy it according to the policy. The calendar decides, not your gut. After-tax reality is the scoreboard that matters. Earned income, capital gains, dividends, interest, they're all taxed differently. Short-term trades trigger higher rates than long-term holds. Turnover costs you in taxes and fees. Legal structuring, holding assets in the right accounts, timing sales strategically, can add percentage points to your net return. Model after-tax outcomes before you act. A 12% gross return that leaves you with 8% after tax loses to a 10% gross return that leaves you with 9%. The lies that cost you years. 3 myths destroy allocation discipline. First, you must time the market. You don't. Process beats prediction every time. Trying to buy at the bottom and sell at the top is a fantasy. Even professionals fail at it. Dollar cost averaging, investing a fixed amount on a fixed schedule, beats market timing for most people because it removes emotion and smooths out volatility. Narrative traps are everywhere. This time is different. The trend is obvious. Everyone knows this will happen. Beware stories. Trust systems. Second, more complexity equals more return. It doesn't. Complexity hides risk. Exotic derivatives, multi-layered strategies, funds of funds with opaque fees, they sound sophisticated, but they rarely outperform simple, repeatable approaches. Simple beats clever chaos. Fewer, bigger convictions win. If you can't explain your allocation strategy in one page, it's too complex. Third, rebalancing is optional. It's not. Drift creates hidden risk. A portfolio that starts balanced can become dangerously concentrated if one position runs while others stall. Scheduled rebalancing removes emotion. When the market is euphoric and everything feels safe, rebalancing forces you to trim winners. When the market is panicking and everything feels doomed, rebalancing forces you to buy. Rules beat feelings, especially in drawdowns. How to build your allocation system this week. Draft your policy now. Open a document. Write your eligibility filters, circle of competence, cash flow clarity, define downside. Write your position sizing rules, caps per position, ramps for new bets, maximum concentration in any single asset class. Write your rebalancing cadence, monthly or quarterly. Write pre-committed actions for volatility scenarios. If the portfolio drops 20%, I add surplus. If it rises 30%, I trim and rebalance. One page, clear rules, no ambiguity. Choose your scoreboard, after tax, risk-adjusted return. This is what you track, not gross returns, not what your neighbor is making, not what the headlines say. Your net after-tax risk-adjusted return over time. That's the only number that matters. Automate contributions. Set up fixed transfers from your main account to your investment account on payday. The amount doesn't need to be huge, it needs to be consistent. Automation removes the decision. The money moves before you see it, before you can spend it, before mood interferes. Set threshold rebalancing triggers. If any position drifts beyond your cap by more than a set percentage, say 5%, you rebalance. The trigger is automatic. You don't debate it. You execute. Calendar a 30-minute monthly review, same day, same time, every month. You check the portfolio, compare it to the policy, execute any rebalancing, and deploy new surplus. 30 minutes. No drama, no second guessing. Place asymmetric bets carefully. An asymmetric bet is one where the downside is small and defined, but the upside is large and open-ended. Cap the downside to a loss you can absorb without breaking stride, maybe 1% to 5% of your portfolio. Size winners to matter. If the bet works, it should move your net worth meaningfully. Let compounding run without interference. Don't sell winners early because you're nervous. Don't add to losers because you're stubborn. Follow the policy. Premortems, journals, and decision quality. Use premortems before you allocate. Ask, how could this lose? What would have to go wrong? What's the worst-case scenario? Writing it down forces clarity. If you can't articulate the risks, you don't understand the bet. Track decision quality, not outcome alone. A good decision with a bad outcome is still a good decision. A bad decision with a good outcome is still a bad decision. Luck and skill are different. Over time, good process beats good luck. Review your decisions quarterly. Did you follow the policy? Did you size the bet correctly? Did you understand the risks? The answers tell you if your system is working. Keep a simple journal. Date, thesis, risk, exit. When you make an allocation, write down why. What's the thesis? What's the risk? What's the exit condition? When will you sell or rebalance? 6 months later, review the entry. Did the thesis hold? Did the risk materialize? Did you follow the exit plan? The journal is your feedback loop. It sharpens judgment over time. What good, excellent, and best look like. Good. You've made consistent contributions for 90 days. The automation is running. The policy is written. You're building the habit. Excellent. You have a clear policy. You've executed 2 measured reallocations, and you stayed calm during volatility. The system is working. Emotion isn't driving decisions. Best. Your compounding engine is adding 10 to 20% per year to your net worth after tax. The surplus is deploying. The assets are growing. The timeline to freedom is compressing. When the system tries to break, heat chasing is the killer. Markets run, everyone's making money. FOMO kicks in. You want to pile into whatever's hot. Stop. Follow the policy. Add a cool-off rule. Wait 48 hours before making any allocation decision triggered by emotion. Most impulses die in 2 days. Tax surprises happen when you don't model after-tax returns. A trade that looks profitable on paper can turn into a loss after taxes and fees. Model the outcome before you act. Adjust holding periods to minimize tax drag. If waiting 30 more days drops your tax rate by 10 percentage points, wait. Overconcentration sneaks in. One position runs, and suddenly it's 40% of your portfolio. You didn't plan it, it just happened. Enforce position caps. Rebalance ruthlessly. Diversify by source of cash flow, earned income, dividends, interest, capital gains, royalties. If one stream dries up, the others keep you afloat. The discipline that compounds faster than talent. You now have the system that turns surplus into freedom. Eligibility filters keep you inside your circle of competence. Position sizing protects against ruin. Rebalancing removes emotion. After-tax awareness preserves gains. Automation and cadence make it mechanical. Allocation isn't glamorous. It's not exciting. It's not a story you'll tell at parties, but it's the difference between escaping in 5 years and wandering for 15. Policy beats impulse. Cadence beats chaos. Discipline compounds faster than talent. But even the best allocation strategy hits a ceiling if you're dependent on a single income stream. The next chapter reveals how to stack multiple cash flows that reinforce each other, share infrastructure, and turn fragility into anti-fragile resilience, so one disruption can't derail a decade of progress. Chapter 8. Stack Streams. You've built one income stream and it's working until it isn't. A client leaves. A platform changes its algorithm. A market shifts. A skill becomes obsolete. Suddenly, the stream that felt reliable is gone, and you're scrambling. One stream is fragile. One stream is a single point of failure. One stream means every disruption is an existential threat. Here's what winners know. Resilience comes from redundancy, not the wasteful kind, the strategic kind. Multiple income streams that share infrastructure, reinforce each other, and turn volatility into opportunity instead of crisis. When one stream slows, another accelerates. When one market contracts, another expands. You're not just diversified, you're anti-fragile. This chapter shows you how to stack complementary cash flows, earned income, profit, interest, dividends, royalties, so they share skills, distribution, and systems. By the end, you'll have a 3-stream plan that covers expenses, increases negotiation power, and creates upward spirals of opportunity. One stream is a job, multiple streams is a portfolio. Why one engine isn't enough. Dependence on a single income source is a hidden vulnerability. It feels stable until it's not, then it's catastrophic. One engine stalls and you're grounded. Lose the job and the paycheck stops. Lose the client and the revenue vanishes. Lose the platform and the audience disappears. Single stream income means every shock is a crisis. You can't negotiate from strength because you have no alternatives. You can't take risks because you can't afford to lose. You're trapped by necessity. Multiple streams reduce job and market risk. If your salary covers 60% of expenses and your assets cover 40%, losing the job is painful but survivable. You have runway, you have options, you can negotiate severance, take time to find the right next move, or pivot entirely without panic. Multiple streams increase negotiation power. When you don't need the deal, you get better terms. When you can walk away, people respect your boundaries. When your core expenses are covered by streams outside your employer's control, you're no longer negotiating from fear. You're negotiating from strength. Multiple streams create upward spirals of opportunity. One stream funds the next. Surplus from your job seeds an asset. Cash flow from the asset funds a product. Revenue from the product funds distribution. Each stream makes the next one easier to launch and faster to scale. The whole becomes worth more than the sum of the parts. The 3-stream blueprint. You don't need 10 streams, you need 3 good ones, chosen strategically. The first stream is your core, your strongest competence, the thing you're already getting paid for. This might be your salary, your freelance income, your primary business. The core should be stable, reliable, and capable of covering at least half your expenses. It's the foundation. Everything else builds on top of it. The second stream is a royalty or interest add-on, something low maintenance that generates passive or semi-passive cash flow. This could be dividends from an index fund, interest from deployed capital, royalties from content you've created, or affiliate income from products you recommend. The key is low ongoing effort. You set it up, it runs, and it pays. Maintenance is measured in hours per month, not hours per week. The third stream is a scalable product or service, something leverage-ready that can grow without your hours growing proportionally. This could be a digital product, a productized service, a membership, or a small business with documented systems. The goal is pricing power. You charge for outcomes, not hours. The better the outcome, the higher the price. The more you systematize, the less time it requires. These three streams share infrastructure. The skills you use in your core stream inform the product you build. The audience you reach through your core becomes the distribution for your royalty stream. The systems you document for your product reduce the operational load on your core. They reinforce instead of competing. Shared systems prevent overload. The mistake most people make is treating each stream as a separate business. They build from scratch every time. Different tools, different audiences, different workflows. The cognitive load becomes unbearable. Streams cannibalize each other instead of compounding. The solution is shared infrastructure. Reuse assets across streams. A piece of content created for your core work becomes a lead magnet for your product. A system documented for your product becomes a template you sell as a royalty stream. An audience built on one platform gets repurposed across others. Cross-sell and upsell paths connect the streams. Someone who buys your low-ticket product gets offered your high-ticket service. Someone who hires you for the service gets introduced to your investment portfolio or affiliate offers. The streams feed each other. Revenue from one becomes leads for another. Calendar maintenance blocks keep the system running without chaos. You don't work on all three streams every day. You assign blocks: Mondays for core work, Wednesdays for product iteration, Fridays for royalty stream optimization. The calendar enforces focus. Each stream gets attention, but not simultaneously. The lies that keep you stuck on one stream. 3 myths prevent people from stacking. First, multiple streams split focus. They do if you launch them simultaneously, but sequential stacking prevents overload. You stabilize the core to 80% reliability before adding the second stream. You get the second stream to consistent cash flow before launching the third. Shared infrastructure prevents overwhelm because you're reusing assets, not reinventing wheels. Replace, don't pile on. If a stream stops working, you kill it and redirect resources to the others. Second, you need massive audiences. You don't. Depth beats breadth in niches. 1,000 people who trust you and need what you offer are worth more than 1 million who barely know you exist. High-value offers to small audiences generate meaningful revenue without requiring celebrity-level reach. Conversion beats vanity metrics. A 10% conversion rate on 100 leads outperforms a 1% conversion rate on 1,000. Third, passive income requires no work. It requires front-loaded work, then lighter maintenance. You build the system, document the process, automate what you can, and then maintain it with minimal ongoing effort. Maintenance isn't zero, but it's not full-time either. A few hours per month to keep a royalty stream running beats 40 hours per week selling your time. How to build your stack without burning out. Start by selecting streams with synergy. Map your skills. What do you already know how to do? What are you getting paid for? What could you teach, productize, or systematize? Look for overlap. If you're a designer, your core might be client work, your royalty stream might be template sales, and your scalable product might be a course on design systems. The skills overlap. The audience overlaps. The infrastructure overlaps. Choose a shared channel. Where does your audience already gather? LinkedIn, a newsletter, a YouTube channel, a niche forum? Pick one primary channel and build all 3 streams around it. Don't scatter. Concentrate. 1 channel, 3 offers. Create a deliverable reuse checklist. Every time you create something for one stream, ask, how can this be repurposed for the others? A client deliverable becomes a case study. A case study becomes a blog post. A blog post becomes a video. A video becomes a lead magnet. One asset, multiple formats, 3 streams fed. Launch in sequence. Stabilize your core to 80% reliability. This means it's predictable, documented, and running without constant firefighting. Then add the royalty or interest stream. Fund an index fund, publish a template, set up an affiliate relationship. Get it to consistent cash flow, even if it's small. Then build the scalable product or service. Document the offer, create the first version, and launch to your existing audience. Operate and iterate weekly. Review metrics for each stream. Core stream, revenue, client satisfaction, hours worked. Royalty stream, passive income, growth rate, maintenance time. Scalable stream, units sold, customer feedback, profit margin. Kill or fix laggards quickly. If a stream isn't working after 90 days of honest effort, cut it. Double down on winners. If one stream is outperforming, allocate more resources to it. Bundle, repurpose, and protect focus. Bundle offers across streams. Create packages that combine elements from multiple streams. A client hires you for the core service and gets access to your product library as a bonus. A product buyer gets a discount on your premium service. Bundling increases average transaction value and deepens relationships. Repurpose one asset into 3 formats. A single piece of work, a presentation, a process, a framework can become a blog post, a video, a template, an email series, and a social media thread. One creation, multiple touchpoints, all 3 streams benefit. Maintain a do not build list. Every week you'll have 10 new ideas. Most are distractions. Write them down on the do not build list and defer them. If they still seem valuable in 3 months, revisit. If not, delete. This prevents bloat and keeps you focused on the streams that matter. What good, excellent, and best look like. Good. You have 2 streams covering 25% of your expenses. The core is stable. The second stream is producing consistent cash flow. You've proven the model works. Excellent. You have 3 streams covering 50 to 75% of your expenses. The core is reliable. The royalty stream is low maintenance. The scalable stream is growing. You're negotiating from strength, and one disruption won't break you. Best. You have 4 or more streams covering 100% or more of your expenses with a durable core. Work is optional. You choose projects for meaning, not money. Volatility benefits you because when one stream slows, another accelerates. When the stack tries to collapse, overwhelm happens when you try to do too much at once. Fix. Add 1 stream per quarter. Freeze new ideas until the current stream is stable. Sequential beats, simultaneous. Cannibalization happens when streams compete for the same audience with similar offers. Fix. Differentiate. Make each stream serve a different need or price point. The core is high touch, high price. The product is low touch, mid price. The royalty is no touch, low price. Neglected core happens when you get excited about new streams and let the foundation decay. Fix. Calendar maintenance blocks. Assign an owner to each stream, even if it's you wearing different hats. The core gets protected time every week, no exceptions. From fragile to anti-fragile. You now have the blueprint for resilient income. 3 streams, shared infrastructure, sequential launch, weekly iteration. 1 stream is a job, 2 streams is a hedge, 3 streams is a portfolio, 4 streams is freedom. The stack doesn't just protect you from downside, it positions you for upside. When opportunity knocks, you have the surplus, the systems, and the confidence to act. When disruption hits, you have the runway to adapt. You're no longer fragile, you're anti-fragile. But stacking streams and allocating capital and building leverage, all of it, means nothing if you don't execute. The final chapter stitches everything into a cadence you can run for years, a first move you can make tomorrow, and a system that turns knowledge into inevitable progress. Chapter 9, Make It Real. You've read 8 chapters, absorbed frameworks, and nodded along with strategies, but none of it matters if you close this book and do nothing. Knowledge without execution is expensive entertainment. You'll feel informed for a week, then drift back to the treadmill. The raise will come, the lifestyle will inflate, and 3 years from now, you'll wonder why nothing changed. Here's why. Information doesn't compound. Action does. This chapter stitches everything into a system you can run starting tomorrow. You'll leave with a first move, a weekly cadence, and a one-page plan that turns theory into inevitable progress. No more someday, no more when things settle down. The game starts now, and every day you delay costs you months of compounding on the back end. The map you've been given. Let's compress 8 chapters into the sequence that matters. You learned the rules. Money is a game with a scoreboard, free cash flow and net worth. Track both weekly or monthly. If the lines go up and to the right, you're winning. If they're flat or falling, something's broken. The scoreboard doesn't lie, and it doesn't care about your intentions. You learn the identity shift. Workers sell hours. Owners hold equity. Operators build systems. Investors allocate capital. Each role unlocks different options. You're moving from worker to owner to investor, and each step requires different skills and different behaviors. The shift isn't granted, it's chosen and defended with daily decisions. You learn the sequence: defense first, then surplus, then assets, then leverage, then allocation, then streams. Skip steps and you loop back. Try to leverage before you own, and you scale chaos. Try to allocate before you defend, and one shock erases years. The order isn't arbitrary, it's survival math. You learn to protect downside before chasing upside. Buffers absorb shocks. Debt dies by APR. Risk gets patched where it's catastrophic. Fragility kills compounding faster than bad bets. Stability first, speed second. You learn to create surplus and turn it into a countdown. The freedom spread, the gap between earnings and expenses, is the fuel. Widen it, and the timeline compresses. Shrink it, and you're running in place. Surplus funds assets. Assets generate cash flow. Cash flow funds more assets. The flywheel spins. You learn to own cash flow assets that pay you: index funds, digital products, royalties, productized services, anything that passes the filter. Pays me, I get it, I can cap the risk. One asset breaks the time for money ceiling. Multiple assets create a portfolio. You learn to stack leverage. Code automates, media amplifies, capital funds, people execute. The systemization flywheel: document, automate, delegate, distribute, turns manual labor into scalable results. Each cycle frees hours you reinvest into the next cycle. You learn to allocate capital with policy, not impulse. Eligibility filters, position sizing, rebalancing cadence, after-tax awareness. The one-page policy removes emotion and tames cognitive traps. Process beats prediction. Discipline compounds faster than talent. You learn to stack income streams that share infrastructure: core, royalty, scalable product. 3 streams that reinforce instead of compete. 1 stream is fragile. 3 streams is anti-fragile. Volatility becomes opportunity instead of crisis. That's the map. Now you need the cadence that makes it real. From anxiety to agency. Most people live in a fog of financial anxiety. They don't know if they're winning or losing. They don't know what to do next. They hope things work out, but hope isn't a strategy. What you've learned replaces anxiety with agency. Clear next actions beat vague hopes. You're not guessing anymore. You know the scoreboard. You know the sequence. You know the first move. Clarity creates calm. The scoreboard creates calm, not stress. Tracking free cash flow and net worth weekly doesn't add pressure. It removes uncertainty. You see progress or you see problems. Either way, you know. Knowing lets you act. Not knowing keeps you paralyzed. Systems carry you on bad days. Motivation is fickle. Willpower is finite. Systems are relentless. When you automate transfers, document processes, and calendar reviews, the system runs whether you feel inspired or not. Progress happens on autopilot. You now negotiate from strength. Cash flow buys time and choices. When your assets cover core expenses, you're no longer negotiating from fear. You have walk-away power in careers and deals. You can say no and mean it. You can choose work for meaning, not mere money. Freedom isn't retirement at 65. It's optionality today. The relationship dividend. Money stress destroys relationships. It creates secrecy, resentment, and conflict. Shared financial clarity does the opposite. Less money stress means more presence. When you're not constantly worried about the next bill, the next emergency, the next layoff, you show up differently. Shared goals replace hidden agendas. Cleaner boundaries replace passive-aggressive spending. Fewer status games, more alignment. You're building together instead of competing. Calm planning replaces conflict. Transparent scoreboards for households mean everyone sees the same numbers. Role clarity in shared projects means everyone knows who owns what. Celebrating asset milestones together, first €100 month, first debt cleared, first 6-month buffer, creates shared wins instead of zero-sum battles. The system you've learned isn't just for you. It's for your household, your partnership, your family. Financial freedom is a team sport when you choose to play it that way. What you can achieve now. You're not starting from theory, you're starting with tools. Within 90 days, you can cover 1 to 3 months of expenses with a buffer. Emergency events stop being catastrophic. You have runway, you have calm, you have time to think instead of react. Within 6 months, you can own your first cash flow asset, generating 50 to 100 O per month. It's small, but it's real. You've crossed the ownership line. The ceiling is broken. Within a year, you can have optional overtime, then optional work. Cash flow from assets starts covering discretionary expenses, then essentials. You're no longer trapped by necessity. You have capacity to pursue bold projects, the side business, the creative work, the pivot you've been postponing. Within 2 to 3 years, you can build assets that fund a bigger life. Launch, document, delegate, stack streams that support each other. Step into investor decisions. You're allocating capital, not just earning it. You're designing systems, not just executing tasks. The timeline depends on your surplus rate, your discipline, and your willingness to follow the sequence. But the path is clear. The math is proven. The only variable is you. Why it gets easier over time. Here's the secret most people miss. The game gets easier as you play it. Flywheel momentum builds. Systems do more of the lifting. The first asset is hard because you're learning. The second asset is easier because you're reusing infrastructure. The third asset is faster because distribution compounds with each launch. Decision quality rises with experience. You make fewer mistakes. You spot opportunities faster. You execute with less friction. Diminishing friction is real. SOPs reduce cognitive load. You're not reinventing processes every time. You're following documented playbooks. Automation trims drudgery. Tasks that used to take hours now take minutes. Capital earns while you sleep. The assets you built 2 years ago are still paying you today without additional effort. The compounding isn't just financial, it's operational. Each system you build makes the next one easier. Each stream you launch shares infrastructure with the others. Each asset you own funds the next acquisition. The whole accelerates. Confidence is earned by reps. You don't need to believe it will work before you start. You just need to take the first step, then the second, then the 10th. Small, consistent moves scaled over time create results that feel impossible from the starting line. Your first move, today not someday. Open a dedicated account today and label it Asset Fund. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. This account has one job: fund your first cash flow asset. It's separate from your checking, separate from your buffer, separate from discretionary spending. Money goes in. It doesn't come out until it buys an asset. Automate a fixed transfer. Even €25 per week counts. Even €50 per month counts. The amount matters less than the consistency. Set up the recurring transfer before you close this book. Make it automatic. Remove the decision. Book a 30-minute slot this week to choose your first asset. Open your calendar. Find 30 minutes. Label it, choose first asset. During that slot, run the filter. Pays me within 90 to 180 days. I understand it. I can cap the risk. Pick one. Index fund, digital product, royalty stream, productized service. Pick one and commit. Set a 90-day single asset commitment. No shiny objects, no pivots. No, maybe I should try this instead. 90 days, one asset, full focus. At the end of 90 days, you review. If it's working, you double down. If it's not, you kill it and move to the next. But you give it 90 days of honest effort first. The cadence that compounds. You need a rhythm you can sustain for years. Here it is. Weekly 15-minute scoreboard review. Check free cash flow and net worth. Are the lines going up? Good. Keep going. Are they flat or falling? Investigate. Adjust. Act. One defense move. Refill the buffer. Overpay debt. Patch a risk. One asset move. Contribute to the fund. Improve the product. Reinvest cash flow. One leverage move. Document a process. Automate a task. Delegate a function. Monthly 30-minute retrospective. Review the month. What worked? What didn't? What's the one constraint you'll tighten next month? What's the one bottleneck you'll remove? Update the one-page plan if life changed. Otherwise, keep running the system. Quarterly 90-minute pivot review. Zoom out. Are you on track to hit your 12-month goals? Is the sequence still right, or do you need to adjust? Kill laggards. Double down on winners. Celebrate progress. Reset for the next quarter. That's it. 15 minutes weekly, 30 minutes monthly, 90 minutes quarterly. The cadence creates feedback loops. Feedback tightens decisions. Decisions compound into results. Start small, start messy, start now. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need more information. You don't need permission. You need to start. Every day you wait, someone else is compounding. They're not smarter. They're not luckier. They just started earlier. Time is the variable you can't buy back. You can earn more money. You can learn new skills. You can build better systems, but you can't recover lost years of compounding. Take one step. Momentum will meet you. Open the account. Automate the transfer. Book the 30-minute slot. One step breaks inertia. The second step is easier. The 10th step is automatic. Win the week. One defense move. One asset move. One leverage move. That's the cadence. That's the game. 3 moves per week, 52 weeks per year, compounded over 5 years. The math is absurd. The results are inevitable. The payoff you've earned. You came to this book stuck on a treadmill, wondering why raises didn't create freedom. You're leaving with a map, a sequence, and a system. You know the scoreboard. You know the roles. You know the moves. You know the order. You know the cadence. You have everything you need to escape the rat race. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect, but starting this week. The treadmill is optional. The cage has no lock. The game is winnable, but only if you play. Defend your downside. Widen your spread. Own cash flow assets. Stack leverage. Allocate with discipline. Build resilient streams. Run the cadence. Trust the sequence. Let compounding do the heavy lifting. 5 years from now, you'll look back at today as the moment everything changed, or the moment you almost changed and didn't. The difference is one decision, followed by one action, followed by 1 week of execution. The game starts now. Make your move.